welcome to the Happy Hour with Jamie Ivey podcast. I'm your host, Jamie, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today. Every week on the Happy Hour, I invite a girlfriend to join me on the show, and we chat about the big things in life, the little things in life, and everything in between. I want to say thank you to this week's sponsor, Jelly Telly. Guys, in a screen-filled world that we all live in, Jelly Telly provides a place where God is real and His Word is true. This app is co-developed with VeggieTales creator, and it's available right now on iOS, Android, and Kindle, with more coming soon. Jelly Telly provides great resources to help you and your family walk with God. Jelly Telly is more than just on-screen entertainment, but it's a partner for you as you lead your family in faith. Be sure and check out the brand new 5-minute family devotional. This is a smart, fun, and fast video devotional that helps you start the conversations that matter about God with your kids. How perfect is this for these on-the-go moments we have this summer with our family? Get the devotionals plus 90 plus Christian shows and movies for only $4.99 a month or $39.99 for the whole year. Visit jellytelly.com today and use the special code Happy Hour, which is just for you guys. You're going to get $5 off your year subscription or your first month of Jelly Telly free. Go to jellytelly.com. Guys, today on the show, my guest is Lauren Chandler. And Lauren, I told her on the show today that she's one of the most sweetest people I've ever met. She's a mom to 3, wife to Matt, who's the lead teaching pastor at the Village Church in Dallas, Texas. Lauren's book, Steadfast Love, released this past spring, and I highly recommend you get your hands on it. Today, we're going to chat about her journey through recovery at her church and what those moments were like in 2009 when her husband was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor. You're going to love our conversation. Before we get to conversation with Lauren, I want to ask you guys to do me a favor. If you're a regular listener of the show and you like the show, I would love it if you would go over to iTunes and leave me a rating and a review. Even if you don't listen to the show through iTunes, it just really helps out the show. It's super easy. Go to jamieivey.com/iTunes. If this is your first time, you don't need to leave a review because you don't know if you like it yet. I hope you come back and I hope you really like it. Reviews and ratings, they really do help others find the Happy Hour. And so we want as many people to know about the show. Here's some reviews I just read this morning that are super sweet. This is from Allison. She said, I get encouragement and wisdom. I laugh and I cry. It leaves me thinking, pondering, and praying. I love Jesus more because of the stories I hear. Thanks, Jamie. Man, does that make me excited? I love that. Here's another review from Lisa from Dallas. She says, I've been binge listening for the past month and I can't get enough. I don't really want to catch up because I don't want to have to wait for the next one. Jamie and her guests and friends are inspiring with their journeys through life. I hope to attend a live show in the future. Lisa, I hope you get to attend a live show as well. So if you go to iTunes and leave me a review, I'd be greatly thankful for that. Okay, here's my conversation with Lauren. Lauren, I have been wanting to have you on since I saw you at IF like 3 years ago.
Oh, thank you.
And we actually met a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
A long time ago when we were both like mere babies.
Yes.
And I remember meeting you guys, but it was just kind of like, it was very short. Is that right?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I think, were Aaron and Matt doing something together?
Yes, it was, I think, in Magnolia.
At a D
And
now, probably.
yes, and I think Aaron was, I think Spur 58. Was that the
Yes,
name
that
of the band?
was.
And I think this was pre-kids
Oh,
for
yeah.
us. You know,
Us
Audrey,
too,
our
yeah.
oldest, is 13, and it was before that. And so I think it was just like one day event or something, but I remember loving you guys, and
Oh,
especially just the conversation that we got to have. I think we were both newlyweds. So yeah, I mean, that's like probably
forever. I mean,
maybe
I would have,
15
yeah,
years.
I would have been a newlywed if not engaged. Like
Yeah.
this summer will be our 15-year anniversary.
So maybe so.
Yeah.
Maybe that was it. That's
Which,
crazy.
speaking of anniversary, you told me how long you and Matt had been married.
hmm
You were a baby when you got married.
I was so young. We will be married, oh my gosh, 17 years. Oh my gosh, 17 years this summer. I was 19
You were 19.
when we got married. Yes.
I cannot. How old was Matt?
Oh, he's much older.
Really?
Oh, I mean, he is, but not that badly.
Okay, but tell me, how old was he?
He was 25. He's about 6 years older than
Okay,
I
now
am.
I need to know about this, Lauren, because
Mhm.
that means you were young dating an older guy.
Oh, yeah.
And how
It's
were your parents okay? How did this go down? Did y'all both love Jesus? Like, what was that?
Well, it sounds more scandalous than it was. But I was at camp. I was a camper
Mhm.
at my youth camp the summer after my junior year of high school,
Uh-huh.
and he was the camp speaker.
That is
But
so fun.
my dad was there and my younger brother. And I mean, we just kind of, you know, of course I thought he was cute.
For
I think
sure,
I'd
yeah.
caught his eye, but I mean, he's like, it's a camper. I can't have an
Right.
inappropriate relationship.
Right.
So he like took a different angle and started hanging out with my dad. And of course, my dad loved him. And my dad, it was really weird for him in a good way, because he saw Matt as someone that he respected,
Mm.
and really the Lord used Matt that week in my dad's life, and it was
Wow.
huge. And so, I mean, if you look at it, if there's anybody that as a father you would want your daughter to kind of to marry, it'd be someone that you
For
respected and God used
sure.
in your life. So anyway, so Matt kind of got to know my dad, my brother, and me, of course. And my parents just like invited him kind of into our life. He was going to school in Abilene, but
Hmm.
he was still going back home to Houston, and he was traveling and speaking. And so my parents were like, "Hey, why don't you just, stay with us, break up your trip from, Houston to Missouri or
Hmm.
whatever," because we were in East Texas. And then, of course, he and I started talking. I was working for my dad, who was a CPA at the time, and my dad was helping Matt with some tax stuff.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of got to know each other. But there was a seed of like attraction, and
Right.
also I would even say kind of this moment on the last night of camp where I felt like the Lord, I looked over at Matt across this, fire. Of
Yeah.
course, it sounds very dreamy,
Uh-huh.
uh, but it was like the Lord said, "That's your husband." And
Oh my
my
gosh, I just
response,
got the chills.
yeah, I mean, it was crazy, but my first response was, "You're crazy."
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't tell that to the Lord, but I
But we
thought,
do. So
there's no
yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, yeah, and he kind of had the same experience in that moment too. In fact, he called his little sister and said, "I think I met my wife."
Oh my
And
gosh, are you serious?
I am. But it was crazy because he's like, "But she's a camper, so that's kind of weird." So, but it was all above board. My parents loved him,
Yeah.
and we're excited for us. And so, we dated my senior year of high school. Then we are like, okay, let's go off to college, kind of have that experience of living in the same town. Of course, I ended
Mm-hmm.
up going where he was because I knew I was going to marry him.
Where'd y'all go to college?
Hardin Simmons.
Hardin
It's
Simmons.
a
Uh-huh. In
Yep,
Abil. Yep.
little Baptist school in Abilene, West Texas. Like I never understood why people from out of state ask me, "Oh, you're from Texas," like cactus and horses and all that stuff, which I understood horses, but like the whole open plains and
Yeah.
cactus and that kind of stuff I didn't get because in East Texas, we have all these trees and kind of like gentle rolling terrain,
Uh-huh.
and like I grew up in the piney woods, so I didn't know what they were talking about. And then I went out to school in West Texas, and I knew
You're
exactly
like,
what
I
they were
see
talking
it
about.
now. Yes. It's like
Yes,
Texas is so big that we have all these different areas.
yes, we do.
Yeah.
All these like kind of ecosystems within the
Mm-hmm.
whole state. We
Yeah.
are basically our own country,
And
you
we
know.
and we often like to remind people about that.
We
So
do.
we're
We
so
do.
proud.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so then when had you finished 1 or 2 years of college when you and Matt got married?
I finished 1 year,
Okay.
one freshman year, and
Mm-hmm.
then we got married that summer. And half of that year, I lived in the dorm, and half of that year, I lived with some girls in an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, getting married while in college isn't for everyone,
Yeah.
but it was great for me because I just went home to my husband, my best
Yeah.
friend, and did my homework at home with him.
That is
So,
so funny. Aaron and I were both in college when we got married, but
mhm.
we weren't the same as you, as in we were in like our 6th year of college. Like it just
Yes,
took us a while to get done,
that's
but we
okay.
were both still in college, which I was like, this is great. Just go to class. We had classes together even. I mean, it
Yes.
was kind of funny, but we liked it.
Okay, Matt and I had one class together. It was abnormal psych. And I was like, it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll go Monday and take notes. You go
Yes.
Wednesday and take notes, and then we'll both go on Friday. Well, that did not work because I got my notes, I gave them to him. This is working out great.
Uh-huh.
He went on Wednesday, took notes, brought them home, and I was like, what is this? I don't understand one word. This is not going to work. Because I'm more, even though I'm kind of like the artist, I definitely have, I like some structure.
Yeah.
And I did not understand how he was putting his together. And to this day, it's funny. He I can take notes off of some of the other pastors that preach at our church, but
Uh-huh.
on Matt, I'll take these like nuggets, but I can't take notes like a lecture because that's not how he is. And that's how God has gifted him. That's why he's so great. But it's not, here are the 3 points, here are the sub
Right.
points, here that
Yeah.
you just got to throw that out the window and just take the nuggets. And so that did not last long, and
That
I
is
made a better
hilarious.
grade than he did in that
That
class.
is
I'm just
great.
saying.
Hey, Aaron and I were a little competitive as well. We're just, who's going to do
Oh,
better in here? Yeah.
yeah. Yes.
Okay, so 19 and married to a pastor. I mean, did you ever think that you would be a pastor's wife?
You know, um, I I remember probably, gosh, when I was right before I met Matt, I grew up in a Christian family, became a believer at a very young age. I was like 9. And I do think it was like, some people kind of have the story of, I made this profession, I got baptized, but I don't think I really meant it. I
Right.
really think I meant it, and I think I understood as much as I could. I had some rebellious years in there, and then right before I met Matt, the Lord just kind of like, it was kind of my big rebellion, which was I went to a party at a lake house and got caught. And
Mm-hmm.
but it was enough like for me to repent. I don't
Yeah.
think I'd just been a good girl. I was like, what do I have to repent of? Even though I had a lot to repent of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
That
I know
was
what you're
one,
saying. Right.
yeah, that was one thing I could say, okay, I was being disobedient to my parents and disobedient to the Lord, and I wasn't like, I'm not okay. I'm not perfect. I'm
Yeah.
not the good girl. And I needed to be kind of knocked off that pedestal for my own heart. And so right before I met Matt, the Lord just really started growing my heart towards him, like just stirring my heart towards him. I wanted to read the Bible. I wanted to pray because I'd kind of tasted his grace in a real way. And
Yeah.
so, right before I met him, the Lord had just done something to my heart. And so I thought, um, you know what? I just have this feeling like maybe I'll be a missionary's wife, or maybe I'm going to go out into the mission field or be in some kind of full-time ministry. I don't know what this looks like. And then I met Matt. And I think once I met Matt, I was like, you know what? I think maybe this is it, that I will partner in ministry
Mm-hmm.
somehow with him. So, I didn't always think I would.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I look back at my little, like, the handwriting I did in first grade, where you like set goals, maybe it
Yeah.
was like third grade, in 5 years this and 10 years this. And I
Uh-huh.
remember, like, when I'm 29, it said, I'll be a famous actress married to a producer with 2 kids.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So that's what I thought I was gonna do.
This
But
is way better.
this is a much better plan. It
Much
is.
better. So, you and Matt, have you been at your church for how long? Was
We have been at the village for 13 and a half years.
Okay, that's a long time. That's a really
Yes,
long time. And
it is.
so I'm like you kind of with well, I never thought that I would be a pastor's wife. I didn't really start following Jesus till I was around 21, and it just seemed really like not like I wouldn't be the normal pastor's wife. I
Uh-huh.
didn't think I had enough to bring to the table to be married to a
Yeah,
pastor. You know what I mean? Like
I
I
know.
just felt like really underqualified,
Mm,
which yes, I am. We all are, right? For
yes.
whatever that means. But I just felt like this can't happen to me. Um, but I know that you have talked pretty openly about your journey with Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah.
When and okay, so your book, Steadfast Love, which I will
Hmm.
admit on air, I'm only 89 pages in.
That's okay. And let me tell you this. And I read a review not too long ago. It was such a good, like, gracious review, but the first couple of chapters are hard to get through. Like, in my own
Oh,
book, I will tell you, they're hard to get through, but it's like one of those, like, I'm laying the foundation for
mm.
the rest of the book, and the rest of the book is better,
Okay.
I
Well,
think.
I'm not 89 pages in because I started 7 weeks ago. I started yesterday, so I read a lot. yesterday, you know?
Hey, that's okay.
It was literally one of those moments when I've had your book on my shelf for
I know.
months, and I'm like, before I talk to Lauren, I'm gonna read the entire thing. And then I sat down yesterday to look at my week, and I was like, oh, tomorrow we're talking
I
tomorrow.
know.
So I
Let me
busted through
tell
it.
you.
But
I
all that to
understand.
say, you talk about your journey with Celebrate Recovery. I would love for you just to talk with me about that and for our
Yeah.
listeners because I feel like you did a lot by saying, "Hey, here I am." Like, I mean, I love when you talk about it the very first time, is you're saying, like, I am in a room with these people and I'm their pastor's wife. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, I felt that because that's how I would feel too, as
Mm-hmm.
if it were, yeah. So walk through
Yeah.
that kind of season that you had.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes back to when I was talking about, you know, as a kid, just I was a good girl, and I was going to make the right grades. I was going to obey my parents. I was going to just kind of not have anybody on my back and be able to please everyone and just really have it all together. But, that wasn't true in my
Mm-hmm.
life. So, there was just this schism of what I wanted to be true about me and then what was really true. And so finding a lot of my identity and being the good girl and so so I married a pastor and I felt like I could probably do the pastor's
Mm-hmm.
wife thing. I play the piano, I sing, and I'm
That's the
pretty
perfect pastor's wife, first of all.
I'm pretty good with people.
Yeah.
um but I get into it and I realize, oh crap, like I've got issues
Mm.
and a lot of it had to do with just people pleasing, perfectionistic ideas
Mm-hmm.
in my own heart. And I'll be honest, what really got me there was, I'd always had these, I'll know I'm good enough if. And so
Mm.
I love music's always been a part of my life. I can remember being a little girl and sitting in front of my grandparents' piano and looking at the sheet music, not really knowing what they meant, but knowing they went up and down, and I could have someone play the piece for me, and then I would play it, because I'd
Mm.
remember this is what
Mm-hmm.
it sounded like, and I would just sit there and spend like an hour just unprompted. At the piano, and so music had always been a big part of my life. I enjoyed singing. I enjoyed the idea of performing. It
Yeah,
was a
because you
little
wanted to be a,
terrifying.
and you also wanted to be a movie star. So,
And see, I did like the idea of performing. And so, and then I started singing at church and leading worship for the little youth band and then in college being a part of a Bible study worship ministry and then I had good friends around me that were leading worship and getting to write their own music and perform and super talented people.
hmm
And so I kind of was like, okay, God, I want to do this. I would struggle with not feeling good enough. That the
mm,
reason I wasn't able to make my own recording or um, travel or whatever, be asked to lead worship somewhere. It's because I just wasn't good enough. And
hmm
so part of me would just kind of pick out different voices. I was like, you know what? I like her voice and I like her platform. Um, Maybe if I just pattern myself after
mm.
her, I'll get what she has.
Man, we
And
do
so
that all the time.
we
All
do.
the time. Yeah.
And it's so unoriginal. The Lord's
Right.
like, are you kidding me? I've
She's like,
given
I worked
you
really hard on you.
That's right. I've already got her. I need
Yeah.
you. And so, and so I just always had these little ticks of like, I'll know I'm good enough if this,
Mm.
like tick marks.
Yeah.
And one of them was if I could sing on a project with this person, I will know that I'm good enough.
Mm.
And so just the Lord orchestrated some opportunities where I got to record with like my hero and I couldn't believe it and I couldn't wait to hear, the
hmm
song and then I would like my heart would be at peace. I know I was good enough.
Mm.
And I got the recording back and I listened to it and I hated it. I hated my voice on it. I hated how it sounded. I loved her. She sounded amazing.
Uh-huh.
But like I just I cried. I was so
Mm.
frustrated. And that's when I was like, something is wrong.
Yeah.
Something's really wrong with me. It's almost like I likened it to maybe someone with an eating disorder that maybe what they look in the mirror and everyone else sees like thin or their
Mm-hmm.
body looks just great and healthy and perfect or whatever. And then that person looks and just sees like fat
This
or
distortion that's not
yes, a
right. Yeah.
distortion. And that's what it felt like. And so I knew something was off. And I was doing a Bible study, Believing God, with a group of women. I had a friend that was leading it, and Beth was, I mean, that's just that was a turning point in
Mm.
my life where I remember Beth saying on the video, I normally don't do this kind of thing like on a recording. This is normally just a live thing I like to do, but she kind of gave an altar call, like a response time
Mm-hmm.
for people even watching from home where, maybe there's something in your life that the Lord's saying you need to move on. And so she's talking about the Israelites led by Joshua crossing the Jordan over into the promised land, taking their rock and like being stuck maybe in that dry riverbed and kind of looking back at the wilderness and what they know, but also, the slavery,
Mm.
and then looking forward to the promised land, the promise, but it's also the unknown. It's a little scary. And she's saying, some of you need to pick up that rock and you need to move on.
Mm.
And my heart was just beating. I was
Because you
like,
knew.
that was me. I was like,
Yeah.
I want to move on. I don't know how to move
Mm-hmm.
on. And so the woman that was leading the group, she just prayed over me a real prophetic prayer where she talked about kind of this plucking up this weed in my heart and the getting to the root of it. And so that week, Matt had kind of challenged everybody at the church. I think we were probably 3 or 4 years in. No, just maybe 2 or 3 years
Mm-hmm.
into the village. He was like, we've got this program called Celebrate Recovery, and it's not just for, people with addiction, but it's for
Mm-hmm.
anyone. And I remember feeling prompted to go. I was like, I want to go. I want to see, what this is all about. So after that Bible study and after my leader's prayer over me, a couple of days later is Celebrate Recovery, and it's a Thursday night in the sanctuary. And the guy that's teaching just read my mail. I mean,
Mm.
just was so specific, even to what my mentor had prayed over me.
Yeah.
And so I remember at the very end, they offer like a response time where you can go up and you can receive like this poker chip.
Mm-hmm.
And a blue poker chip is like the moment of surrender. It's like where there's something in your life that you want to bring to him. And I remember I wanted to run up to the front, but I couldn't. I was just paralyzed by fear. I was like, what are the people going to think?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I'm a
Yeah.
pastor's wife. What are they going to think that the pastor's wife has to get up
Yeah.
and take a chip? And then they moved on to like these other chips, like, it's been a month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever. And they said, we're going to offer the chip one more time, the blue chip, the blue surrender
Mm-hmm.
chip one more time. And I remember just relief washing over me because I would just had regret. Every person that went up after that blue chip, I just regretted that I didn't
That you
go.
didn't go. Yeah.
Yeah. And so finally, I get up when they offer it. I mean, immediately I was like, okay, I'm not going to think. I'm just going to go. And I get up there, and they had a woman standing up there to receive any women that went up, and she hugged me. And I just remember I could have melted. I started to
Mm.
cry. I could have ugly cried the whole way back to my seat. But instead, it was just a steady stream of tears.
Mm.
But just the relief I felt of finally admitting I don't have it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Have I have sin and I have just this burden in my heart that I can't shake on my own. No amount of Bible studies or praying or, being at church every week, that is not cutting it. I need something else to just kind of get up in my business
Mm.
and call me out on some things
Yeah.
and have the Lord just free me
Mm.
from these chains. And I talk about in the book these false anchors where I'd kind of had this false anchor of identity of I'll know I'm good enough if
Mm.
like this is what my identity will be rooted and anchored in.
Yeah.
And so just finally being able to see that I had these like this false anchor, these chains that were weighing me down.
I liked that a lot. I related to that a lot when I was reading that about what we're like anchoring on. Like this, I'll be good enough when this happens. And
Yeah.
when I read it, I found myself saying, "Wow, I found myself not in those exact words because I didn't have those words, but I related to feeling that way about myself as well." What
Yeah.
did that? How long was the program Celebrate Recovery, and what did that do for you on the flip side?
Yeah. So they have a steps program that we went through, and we've since changed it at the village. We did Celebrate Recovery, but then we started kind of tweaking some things, and
Mm-hmm.
Celebrate Recovery was like, "Hey, that's not Celebrate Recovery anymore. That's something different, so you can't call it that." And
Right.
which we totally respected. And I love Celebrate Recovery, and I love what they're doing. So we kind of made it our own, and we
Mm-hmm.
now it's called Recovering Redemption. But it's like a 12-week process that you're meeting in these groups. I met with like 8 other women. I had someone else leading, which I loved. It was so good to just have my toes stepped on, to
Yeah.
not be the one in the room that people are looking to, but
Mm.
to look to someone else.
Yeah.
And then, Celebrate Recovery had all these like chants that we would do together
Mm-hmm.
that were so good for me because they were so uncomfortable.
Mm.
But I loved it. I loved being kind of just having my toes stepped on,
Yeah.
is the best way I can put it.
And the thing about like Celebrate Recovery, and I'm sure the recovery and redemption that you guys have, is that these types of organizations and places, they are set up to be safe. And so
Absolutely.
and so it's you come in and you feel like it might be unsafe because they're asking you to be vulnerable,
Hmm.
but they're set up to be a safe place. And I think that probably I'm hearing that you experienced that first night. And then once you
Oh,
experience that, you kind of like, it's like you let out this breath of fresh air, like, okay, I can just be like Lauren and I don't have to be
yes.
Matt's wife and I don't have to be the pastor's wife and I don't have to have all my stuff together because this is a
Yeah.
safe place.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some things that I admitted in that little group of women that I was like, I mean, they're gonna look at me like I grew a second head when I say this out loud. And you know what? I like confessed it in front of them,
Mm,
and they moved on to the next person.
yeah.
No one gasped. No one like
Mm-hmm.
fell over backwards in their
Yeah.
chair.
Mm,
So I think that is it is a safe place where you
mm,
can just be honest. And that's what I think, the enemy wants to do is he wants to isolate us and make us
yeah.
feel like if you admit that, like
Mm,
people are going to look at you like you're crazy. When
yep.
in reality, people are going to be like, I totally
I get it.
understand.
I know. I always call it like sin shock. Like I want to be
Yeah.
a woman that does not have sin shock when someone tells
Yes.
me something. Like I don't want to be shocked by your sin,
Right.
because I want to know that we all sin, and that I don't want to be
Yes.
shocked by it because God's grace is bigger than what you're telling me. Like
That's
there's
right.
nothing that's too big for His grace, and so
That's right.
I
Hmm.
love that safe place that you got went through that. Hey guys, real quick before we get back to my talk with Lauren, I wanna tell you about a great way to get all the stuff you need from Amazon. If you're like me, if I need something, I just go to Amazon. I've got Prime shipping. It's the easiest thing to get something to me. I'm constantly talking about books on the show that we love, and I'm sure you have a long list. Next time you're looking for something on Amazon, go to Amazon this way. Go to jamieivey.com/Amazon. It takes you directly to Amazon, but with every purchase, you actually help out the happy hour. So jamieivey.com/Amazon. You should go get Lauren's book, Steadfast Love. Okay, here's the rest of my conversation with Lauren. Okay, so a lot of people may know this, but I'm guessing that a lot of people don't know what you and Matt went through in 2009.
Right.
And that was when probably one of a lot of listeners, maybe mine including, one of our top fears that we might go
Mm.
through is the thought of something happening to somebody we love, specifically our spouse or our kids. And for you, it was your husband, Matt, um, y'all just went through the trenches. And Matt is alive and well today. But what
Hmm.
happened in November of 2009?
Yeah. Thanksgiving Day, it was just kind of like any other Thanksgiving Day. I was getting ready to just take dishes over to my mom's house to have lunch that day. And I hear just this commotion in the living room where Matt and our 3 kids, who were 4 and 6 months at the time, and I'm like waiting to hear Matt say, "It's okay, I got it, I'm
Mm-hmm.
cleaning it up," Audrey, whatever. And I didn't hear anything. And so I was like, that's weird. So I walk into the room and I can hear like the fireplace tools kind of hitting against each other. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what is going on? And Matt is on the ground having a grand mal seizure.
Mm.
And grand mal, M-A-L, because
Yeah.
someone, I was saying something, and they said, what is a
A
grandma
grandma
seizure?
seizure.
I was like, no, grand mal.
And your
So
kids are right.
they're
I've never
right.
actually heard this
Yes.
story. I mean, I know what happened,
Yeah.
but I've never heard you share it. So your kids were right there with him.
They were right there. They were watching like the Macy's Day Parade
Mm-hmm.
on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Our 6-month-old, Matt had just put our 6-month-old daughter in the
Mm.
little Johnny jump up before, and he was walking back to like a chair to drink his coffee, and he just passed out. Like he doesn't remember anything
Mm.
after that. And so Audrey was the only one that I think understood that something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Reed was like, oh, Dad's
That's
like
weird.
snoring weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it really was.
Yeah.
And so, so I go in there, I recognize he's having a seizure. I get Audrey to go get my phone,
I mean, were you
and
calm like you're talking to me?
I probably was on the outside, but on the inside, I was like freaking out. But
Okay.
it's so interesting. I think the Lord will just give you this peace in the
Mm-hmm.
moment because probably about 2 to 3 years before that, Reed had had a seizure, and I was home with him.
Mm.
And Matt just happened to be home, and I was freaking out when Reed had it, but Matt was the calm one in charge.
Okay.
And so I think when you know you're the one in
You're the one.
charge,
Like Audrey can't do anything. She's
she can't.
6. Yeah.
So it just something happens. I don't know if it's like in your nervous system that God just created
Or
it
the
to just go into work
grace of
mode.
God. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I just was in work mode, and I had like my lifeguard training from
Mm.
college just kicked in. I was like, turn him on his side,
Yeah.
move things around him, don't put anything in his mouth, all that stuff. And so,
So you called
thank good,
911.
huh?
You called 911.
I called 911, and they were there immediately because we were basically right next door to the fire station.
Thank
And
goodness.
he's
Yeah.
finally stopped seizing when they get there, and he's just like snoring, like just really breathing loudly. And they say that when you have a grand mal seizure, it's almost if your body has run a marathon, and so your
Mm.
your body has gone through a lot. And he starts opening his eyes, but you can tell there's like no recognition, almost not even like a newborn baby, because he was like looking through you.
Mm.
He wasn't looking at me.
Mm-hmm.
And so they load him up on the gurney. My parents, I'd called my parents. They got there around the same time. They live really close, and they took the kids, and I got in the ambulance with Matt, and they took him to just the local hospital. And when they're unloading him in the like emergency bay, he finally looks at me and is like, "Hey, babe, what happened?"
Oh.
And so, which I'm so grateful, because I thought when I was sitting in the front seat of that ambulance and they were
Mm-hmm.
trying to get him strapped down at our house, I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, is this the rest of my life? Will I
Mm.
have a husband who's brain dead,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
is really just a shadow of who he was,
Mm-hmm.
that I'll take care of like a child for the rest of his life, my life."
Mm-hmm.
And because that's a very real reality for a lot of people. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I just remember praying, God, I know that you'll sustain me no matter what you bring. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you will sustain me. And so the relief that just washed over
Yeah.
me when he recognized me was indescribable.
Huge.
And so they run some tests, and they discover that he has a mass in his right frontal lobe, and that he needs to see a neurosurgeon
Is
immediately.
this
And
the
so
same Thanksgiving day? These
this
tests
is
and discovered
Thursday.
all of that
Yes.
they tell you this within the same day of the seizure.
Yes.
Okay.
So seizure happened at like 9 o'clock in the morning. This is probably 11 o'clock. And, we were at the hospital probably from 11 to maybe 3
Yeah.
or 4. And then they discharged him home. And bless his heart, he had almost bitten through his tongue. So, I mean,
Oh,
it was swollen. I mean, he had a big, like, knot on the side of his head where
where he
he'd fallen
fell.
and hit in
Yeah.
the fireplace. And
Oh.
so he felt terrible. And
Mm-hmm.
so my sweet mom, she cooked and prepared everything. So
Y'all were having
she saved,
Thanksgiving.
yes, she saved us a couple of plates, and we ate it. But it wasn't the same. And
So you
yeah,
leave the hospital though with that news.
Yeah,
that
with
there's
there's a mass.
mass and you know nothing else.
That's it. I
Okay.
mean, I think for Matt, he was like, this could just be a tumor that I've always had for the rest of my life and,
Mm-hmm.
that I've always had and I'll have and they'll just watch it, that happens. And I just had this feeling of it needs to come out. Whatever it is, it needs to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you why I felt that. I felt that.
Mm-hmm.
So we wait the whole weekend because the neurosurgeon we call that was recommended that I love. He's a godly man.
Mm.
He's very talented, well respected in his field. Um, he was on vacation with his family and wasn't
Mm-hmm.
going to get back in the office till Tuesday. And so we waited from Thursday to Tuesday
Mm.
to see the doctor. And we saw him Tuesday. I don't remember what time of the day it was. And he pulls up the film from the emergency room and he said, "This looks serious." And I have gone ahead and made room in my schedule on Friday to operate. So, Matt's going in thinking this
This
is
is
something we're
not
probably just going to watch.
right.
And so he's just like shocked. He just doesn't.
So he was completely unprepared for the
Yeah,
possibility of surgery.
totally. I mean, he thought, okay, this will be just something that we watch. And so, so he just kind of, that's when I think that hit him the hardest
Mm.
was, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go under the knife. I
On
don't
my
know what,
brain.
yeah, on your brain.
Right.
And what he does for a living is, you know, have to be sharp-minded,
Yeah.
studying the scriptures,
Uh-huh.
knowing a lot of information, being able to disseminate that information in a way that people understand and connect
Mm.
with. And it's like, I mean, am I even going to be able to talk,
Yeah.
when I come out? Or am I going to even make it through the surgery?
Mm-hmm.
And so his main concern was that the kids, that, whether he came out of it like himself or not, he was like, I don't want the kids to hate God
Mm.
for this. I don't want them to hate the God that I so love and trust, that I know will be good no matter what
Mm.
happens.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to know that he is still good.
Mm.
And so that's what brought him to tears more than anything.
Mm.
And for me, I don't know if it was that same kind of whatever came over me when he had the seizure,
Mm-hmm.
where it was just like this, we're getting it done. We're
Mm-hmm.
just we're just going to cross that bridge when we come to it. That, I mean, I was definitely faced with what ifs.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I call it just the peace of God. I was just like, one step at a time. The Lord is going to sustain us.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to make it. We're going to
Yeah.
make it. Now, it wasn't my brain that was being,
But
cut
still,
on.
it was
But
affecting your whole family. I mean, it was a big deal.
yes,
Yeah.
a huge deal. And I tell everyone, I was like, we're in trouble. Matt is a much better mom than I am. Like, he can do it. I struggle. I was like overwhelmed by the fact, especially he and our older daughter just have a sweet relationship.
Mm.
And as she's gotten older, like it's changed a little bit, and she and I are closer in some ways we weren't before. And she's so much fun. I love her, but Matt just gets her in a way that I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to get her.
Yeah.
And I remember being, oh my gosh, like Audrey,
She needs him.
she needs him. I need him.
Uh-huh.
Matt Reed needs him.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so we ended up going in Thursday, having an 8-hour craniotomy.
Mm.
In addition to all this, so that's just like our family. The church, we had gone from, it was like 120 people to like thousands at this
Mm-hmm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
And we had another campus in Denton, just kind of a few miles up the road. And we were still meeting in our original building. At one time, we had done 6 services. I think at this point, maybe we were doing 4 or 5
Mm-hmm.
services. I mean, Matt was tired, and we
Yeah.
were doing video stuff, so that helped. But that weekend, after Thanksgiving, was going to be kind of the soft launch for the new campus. We had
Mm.
just bought an old Albertsons grocery store, retrofitted it. This was going to be our first like run through to see how childcare is going to work. This
Yeah.
is how the sound's going to work. And we weren't there. We weren't
Mm-mm.
there for that first meeting or the next meeting in the brand new building.
Mm.
And so I don't think that that is a coincidence. I think it was the Lord saying, here's the deal. The Village Church is
I
my
have it.
church.
Yeah.
I have it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yes, Matt, I'm using him, and
Mm-hmm.
he is a gift to that body, and that body is a gift to him. But I'm the one that will sustain this church, not Matt Chandler.
That's so good.
And so, anyway, so we missed the first couple of months
Yeah.
of services in that building. And I think we also had another campus open too. So anyway, but I just think it was interesting, the Lord saying, you know what,
Yeah.
I got this.
I got it.
Hmm.
So Matt goes in for this 8-hour surgery. Did you and him have any kind of like pretty blunt conversations about what could happen?
Yeah. I mean, we were kind of in um, like pre-op room together where it's just kind of like these curtains around us, and we just talked and prayed. And I mean, more than anything, we just asked the Lord together, would you just spare Matt's life? Would you spare him, spare his mind,
Mm-hmm.
spare his like faculties, and preserve his life?
Yeah.
And so, you know, we had a girl living with us providentially, who was helping with the kids, and um, I mean, we prayed about it and we asked the Lord to preserve his life, but we didn't have any like plan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the church had a plan because they kind of had to,
Yeah.
and we knew we're just going to take it one day at a time. And I don't know, I knew, like, it was just this piece of,
Mm.
Lord, you're going to take care of us somehow, some
Mm-hmm.
way. And that's also just having the body of believers,
Yeah.
just having the church to know that I wasn't alone, that I
Mm-hmm.
had the elders of our church, these other lead pastors, these families, these friends,
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't, and my biological family and Matt's
Mm-hmm.
family, that I didn't feel so alone if something were to
Yeah.
happen to
Mm-hmm.
Matt. So
Yeah.
I think that helped kind of spread the burden, to where I didn't feel so alone
That's
in
great.
it.
So
Yeah.
Matt goes through the surgery and just tell us like what was the diagnosis after that?
Yeah. He was diagnosed. So what's interesting is they gave me the diagnosis before they gave it to him.
Oh, did
And
you
so
write this or did I hear you say
I
this?
did, I think I did write about this,
Okay.
where I knew for about a week on
Which
my,
is crazy.
it is
I
crazy.
do not understand. Like he was in your house sleeping in your bed, like, and you didn't
Well,
tell him?
no, he was like in rehab. So,
Okay.
but I mean, I was facing him, and there was like one time,
Lauren, I don't understand. I'm just like, I don't, that would have been so hard.
it was and I'll tell you where it was hard and where it really stretched me was that people pleaser in me. Like
Mm,
I wanted to tell his parents, but I didn't want to tell his parents, like I just felt like, one, the doctor was like, this is something, I want to tell you so we can start making decisions on like neuro-oncologists and all that. But Matt needs to focus on getting better. Well, I didn't want to put that on his family and have his
mm-hmm,
family have to act okay around him.
mm-hmm.
And just out of respect for him, I didn't want everybody to know but him.
Yeah.
You know,
So who
I was
knew?
I knew, and then one other lead pastor knew, and that was it. And he knew just so he could make arrangements at the
For
church.
sure.
But that was it, just the two of us. And we didn't tell anyone else.
And so when Matt wakes up, I mean,
Hmm.
did he ever ask?
That's what's weird, is he didn't really ask.
Is it
He didn't
because
really
he
ask.
was like
Well,
incoherent or it just he never asked?
no, we kept the doctor kept telling him, well, we don't have because we didn't have the pathology for 4 or 5 days after.
Okay, but they just
Yeah.
knew that it wasn't good.
Yes.
Okay.
So they knew. And so, but it was a grade 3 anaplastic oligodendroglioma.
That's a lot.
And yep, it's a mouthful. And it was cancerous. I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
malign,
Yeah.
malign. And so
Yeah.
malignant. Thank
Malignant.
you.
Yeah.
You'd think I'd know.
It's all right.
It was malignant. And so, yeah, so I asked the doctor, I said, what's like the prognosis? What's the life expectancy for someone with this? And he said 2 to 3 years.
Mm,
And so, that was the time when I felt all alone.
yeah.
That was when I walk out of that meeting knowing I wasn't going to tell anybody and
Mm-hmm.
seeing like my parents, Matt's parents, our friends, couples
Mm,
together and being jealous,
mm,
like of, we don't know when the Lord might take one of our spouses or what might
mm-hmm.
happen, but I felt like I kind of got like a timer
Yeah. No,
on
for real. Yeah.
on our relationship. And so getting
Mm-hmm.
to see these couples and being jealous and being angry, like, well, why do I have like
Yeah.
an expiration date,
Mm-hmm.
on my marriage, with the man that I love, with my best friend. And so that was
Yeah.
the hardest part.
So when you
Um,
told Matt, how was
mhm.
his reaction to that?
It was interesting. So I didn't tell him.
Okay.
I The doctor did. The doctor
Mm-hmm.
told him, and but the way that the doctor told us, the way he told Matt was a little different. I think he was a little more optimistic with Matt.
Okay.
And I think just so Matt would just fight, but
Yeah.
he didn't realize Matt would fight no matter what.
Uh-huh.
That's just his personality.
Uh-huh.
And so I remember just trying to like get the doctor to like convince Matt of the gravity of this situation because I felt like Matt didn't, his response was so good that I was like, does he
Wait,
understand
time
what
out. Did you
this
hear the
means?
same thing I've been thinking about for
Yeah,
a whole week?
exactly. And so, and so the doctor kind of did. He was kind of like, look, you could go on and this doesn't come back, or the Lord could smile on us and you're healed, or you could drive home tomorrow from work and get hit by a car. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, okay, that's not what I wanted him to hear. But it didn't matter because honestly, here we are, almost 7 years,
Mm,
and he's gone back for scans. It was like every 3 months, then every 4 months. Now it's every 6 months, and he has been cancer free
mm.
ever since the first scan. I
It's
mean,
crazy.
after that post-operative scan,
Mm-hmm.
he's had no evidence of a tumor,
That is
which
unbelievable.
it's miraculous. And
Yeah.
he has friends that were diagnosed with a brain tumor around the same time, guys that he kind of met through
Through
the whole
this.
process.
Uh-huh.
And there are only like a couple left. And
Mm.
so we realize that the Lord has been gracious to us, and we are grateful for every, 6 months that we get the good news.
Yeah. So
So,
how has this changed your view on God?
you know, um, I don't know if it really changed my view on God
Mm-hmm.
more than it just showed me that I really do believe that He's good no matter what.
Mm,
And so I think what it did is it brought weight to my faith,
mm.
where, you can always
Yeah.
hope. You can
Yeah.
always hope that when it's your day
Mm-hmm.
and you get the news that you will. Yeah, oh, here's the deal. Did I have hard times? Did I get angry at
Mm-hmm.
God? Yes,
Sure.
I had those moments.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I found him to be faithful. I
Mm,
found his word to be true. And I will say that I feel like it deepened my understanding of scripture,
mm.
where all these places that I felt like were contradictions in his word, I saw where they started to come together.
Yeah.
And I could see how you can have two contradictions be simultaneous, like where you can have this deep joy and sorrow
At
at
the
the
same
same time,
time. Mm-hmm.
and where you can be caught in this. So I recorded an album in 2012 called The Narrow Place, and kind of just that narrow space between where we are right now, where it's the already but not yet. So
Mm,
already we are experiencing the graces of what Jesus has done, his life, his death, his resurrection. Like we've got tastes of it, but we don't have the fullness yet. we're in this kind of in between where we're hopeful, but we still experience pain. It's that,
Right.
we're perplexed but not crushed,
Mm-hmm.
persecuted but not abandoned. So what that did is that I knew it. I lived that part. And I understood that. And so getting to go back through scripture and see that there are these tensions in scripture that I want a hard line on that's not there.
Right.
And so, and no, and there's all kinds of examples of that. But I think that's how it might have shaped me, was just being able to accept the tension and trust the Lord with some of that mystery.
That's awesome. And I love earlier when you talked about when you got into the ambulance and you literally were just like praying to God, God, will you just sustain me through whatever is in front of
Yeah.
me? And it makes me think, I was just talking to a group of women recently on just like building your house on the rock,
Mm-hmm.
and what does that look like? And just actually to like believe in God's promises. And one of the promises that you were proclaiming right then is like, God, you're the sustainer.
Yeah.
And so just like that storm was rolling in on you and your family, and
Yeah.
you had truths to stand on that we're going to get you through no matter what, whether Matt didn't make it through that surgery or, 7 years later, that truth has not changed
Right.
at all. Ah,
Absolutely.
thanks for sharing that. I've never heard the story from either you or Matt. I've just read about it. So
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad I
yeah,
got to tell it.
love it, love it. Okay, I think that we could chat for 17 more hours because I have
I think
four
so.
more things on my list that I wanted to talk to you about, but that means we'll have to meet again.
That sounds great.
But I want to get to the part where I ask my guests what they are loving and what they're reading. So,
Mm-hmm.
where would you like to start? Three things you're loving or what you're reading?
Is that the three favorite things
Yeah.
or?
Yeah. What are three of your favorite things
Okay.
right now? It can be
Three
anything.
things I'm loving. Okay. Um, One thing that I'm loving right now, I don't know if I'm saying this right. Zum, Z-U-M. Have you ever seen that? It's like
No,
soap.
I have no
Like,
idea.
okay, so Market Street here has it. I've
Uh-huh.
seen it at Whole Foods. It's like these, Central Market has it. It's like these blocks um, of soap, and it's called Zum, Z-U-M. Anyway, so it's like essential oil kind of stuff, but they
Uh-huh.
also have this laundry detergent, or they do not want you to call it detergent.
Oh,
They have like
why?
a whole paragraph on the back how it's not detergent. Well, because detergent's like chemically and gross, but
Oh, so
this
what
is
do you call it?
soap.
Laundry soap. Got it.
Soap.
Got it.
And then they have like these candles and lotion and all that, but it's not just the brand. It's this one scent that I cannot get enough of, and it's frankincense and myrrh.
Ooh.
And it it smells so good. Like my whole house smells like it. I'm always burning a candle. I have like the hand lotion everywhere. And all of our clothes
Of
smell like
of those,
frankincense and
I
myrrh.
love it
And I feel like it's like really super Christian
because it's
because
like
it's
Jesus' birthday.
frankincense and
It's like
myrrh.
his birthday gifts.
Yes, and gold. I love
Yeah.
gold, so I'm covered.
Okay, so this leads
That's
me to
one.
ask you, are you guys pretty, maybe even more since Matt's diagnosis, are y'all pretty like conscious about what you eat and what you put on your bodies and all that kind of stuff?
More so what we eat,
Uh-huh.
because my second favorite thing that I was going to
Oh,
share,
yeah?
I was like, I don't know if I should share it because I feel like your other guests have all these like natural products to put on their bodies.
Well, you
And I'm
just
pretty,
started with the natural products, so we'll give you
I
that.
did. See? Balance, balance.
Yes, yes.
But so the second thing, it's called like Jenny Magic Bath Cream. I think
Ooh,
that's what it's called.
okay.
DJINNY. And it's like basically aloe vera and petroleum jelly.
Uh-huh.
It smells really good.
So it's bath. It's for the bath.
It's the bath. So it's
Mm.
like comes in this little tub that looks so ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. But
Mm-hmm.
it smells amazing. And so I'm really into smells, as
Oh,
you
I
can
can
tell.
tell. Yes, it's lovely.
And so the trick is while you're still kind of like, you get out of the shower, well, you're still in the shower maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and you just kind of like scrape off the excess water,
Yeah.
and then you get this jelly.
Uh-huh.
That's the magic bath cream, and you rub it all over your body, and you just kind of let it dry, air dry if you
Uh-huh.
can, and it makes your skin
So
so
soft, I
soft,
bet. Yeah.
and you smell so good, and then your sheets smell like it.
Oh.
I love that stuff, but it's like the opposite of like natural. So
So balance, balance. I love it.
balance.
Okay. What's the third
Yeah.
one you're loving?
And then the third thing, oh, I wanted to plug these guys because I love what they're doing and I love their watches. But it's called You Would,
Oh, I have
YOU.
one.
Do you?
Yeah.
I love You Would. And so, in fact, I've got my red
Mine's
and
red too.
oh, it's my favorite. I love the zebra wood,
So how do you know
I
these
think.
guys?
So, Brent Hammett
Uh-huh.
played drums for me at the If Local Leader Gathering in Orlando last
Awesome.
fall.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so I got to know him and actually his wife who started kind of this I think it's called Purchase. Oh, or that might be the Fort Worth one. But in Shreveport, just this, they just started loving on the people in Shreveport, like the kind of the down and out,
Mm-hmm.
and women that are being rescued from just sexual exploitation,
Yeah.
and so I kind of so his wife is that's her heart. She's poured her life into it. He's come alongside her. They've got the You Would that supports these their friends and these people going through the programs. And then she actually mentored a girl that I mentored a long time ago who is doing the same thing in Fort Worth. And that's called The Net. And her name's Melissa Ice. Her husband plays for Green River Ordinance.
Okay.
Jamie Ice. I don't know if you
I
know them.
don't.
Love them. That's another thing I love. I'm going to throw in a fourth thing.
Do they
Sorry.
own a restaurant?
Uh, Brood.
Yeah,
Yes.
Aaron's been there. I think Aaron knows him.
Yes. I bet he does.
Okay, yeah.
I bet he does.
Yes.
And so, anyway, but Green River Ordinance, they're great too. So You
Yes.
Would and Green River Ordinance. So anyway,
Okay.
that's how I got to know Brent and You Would.
I love all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Brent actually
So,
played for Aaron a long time ago in Spur 58
really?
Days. Yeah, he like filled in for a drummer twice or something. And so
Yes.
we caught back up with him at IF this past year.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah, he
that's
was
where I
there.
got my watch. Yep.
I didn't even get to see him when I was
Yeah,
there, but
yeah.
it's always crazy. So
Okay. Awesome, awesome. Okay, I love those. What are you reading?
I am so it's interesting that you're like, I started your book yesterday or whatever, because that's how I would be. I'm so procrastinator last minute. And, I have all these grand plans to read all these fabulous books.
Because we
And
know amazing authors.
yes,
I have
I mean, I have
my stack is
stacks.
mine too, and I want to read them all because I love
Yes.
the women. Yes.
I wish I could just take it up to my head and
Yep.
like put
I
it on
know.
my
Me
head like
too. And like
osmosis.
I'm so proud of them and I want to
Yes.
support all of the things. Yes, I know.
All the things. But I've started a book called Sensing Jesus by Zach Eswine,
Mm.
and it's just really good. It's just kind of, eh, especially for those who are in ministry, doing ministry, just to breathe out and say, guess what? You're not Jesus,
Mm.
and you're not called to be him. Yes, are we being made into his image? Yes,
Mhm.
but we're also human. And so
Yeah.
he tells this story in the book where he opens up this lecture that he's giving to these like hope young seminary students, where he says Jonathan Edwards, the great theologian, farted. And I thought that was so great. It's like Jonathan Edwards, who did these amazing things, who God
Right.
used, was also human. And so that's what's so comforting, just to remember that there are going to be some spaces as ministers of the gospel that God has got to just step in and do.
Yeah.
And we can pray and we can ask him to move and we can be obedient and be his hands and feet. But at some point, we're not the hero. We're not the point. Jesus is.
Mm.
And so that's good for us, especially Matt and me, because we are fixers. We want to be able to rescue
Mhm.
and fix everybody, and we just can't.
Just want to
So
take care of it all. Yeah.
we do. And then the second one I just started like this morning is You Are What You Love by James K.A. Smith. And he's apparently a very brilliant man that wrote another book that's more like the theologian's version of this
Uh-huh.
book. But
Uh-huh.
this is kind of more of a layperson's copy. And
Okay.
it's really interesting. He's saying kind of in our world, we talk about just that Descartes, you are, I think, therefore I am. And he's
Mhm.
saying, actually, that's not how God made us. We are
Mm.
what we love. Like it's our wants and our loves that move and move us and motivate us where, and that's true. Like, how many times have you like memorized scripture or, been reading these books and wanting to implement it as a parent, and you're like, I have all this knowledge, but like I fail like the first time I try to implement it,
Yes, yes.
So, that's what I'm reading right now.
Those sound like two very interesting books. And
Mhm.
do you read any fiction?
I do. I
Because
actually
I always
love
like to
fiction.
hear people if they read more fiction or nonfiction.
You know what? I can read fiction a whole lot faster than I
Yeah,
can
I'm the
use
same
read
way.
nonfiction.
Me too.
And one of my favorites is The Glass Castle.
Love it.
And then what's the one that's like she wrote it after it, but it precedes it, like timeline wise. I can't think of it.
I don't know.
But
I love her writing.
Something like Half Broke Horses or Half Broke.
Oh yeah, I haven't read it, but you're right. You're on the right track. Yeah.
It's so good. I love that one too.
Okay.
So anyway, I just tend to read those on vacation because I'll completely neglect my family and my house if I don't.
Exactly. I say I read the most on vacation because like in a car or on an airplane or by the pool. That's my favorite. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. I love everything that you're doing and reading. And Lauren, it was such a joy to chat with you today. I love your heart about just like surrendering things, walking through that struggle that you and Matt went through. I loved hearing that you and Matt met at a camp. That's like my favorite.
Yay.
But I know. So I'm a big fan of you Chandlers and what you guys are doing. So thanks for coming on the happy hour.
Well, thank you. The Chandlers love the Ivies too.
Aw. Okay. Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Jamie.
Friends, wasn't that a fabulous conversation with Lauren? I just love her so much. I love her story about her and Matt meeting at camp. I cracked up. How she took a chance with Celebrate Recovery and how God used it to shape her into the woman that she is today. Plus all the ways that God worked through Matt's seizure and cancer diagnosis. She has such great wisdom within every conversation that we had. I want you to know anything we chatted about that you'd like to look up or know more information about is going to be on my website, jamieivey.com. I'd love to hear from you. Find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Share with me something you love from this episode. Today's show is edited by Knox McCoy, and the music is from Jason Poe. Next week on the Happy Hour, my guest is Meg Dirksen, and this Friday on the Happy Half Hour, Gloria Furman joins me again. Guys, I'll see you next week. Have a great week. Find some time to hang out with your girlfriends and have a happy hour. See you guys.